In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep.
And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good.
And he separated the light from the darkness.
When he created man, he saw the capacity for this same light.
And this same darkness.
Then he sent one man as light to the world.
And we killed him.
But a new morning dawns in the truth of the resurrection.
But how does this small group of simple men from Jerusalem
Become the faith of 1/3 of the earth's population.
How does a flighty, impulsive fisherman
Become the leader of a revolution? When the flames of Pentecost spread like wildfire and the church grows by 3,000 in an afternoon.
But the Jewish leaders are irate, and the Romans, well, they're suspicious. So they know this must be silenced. Stephen is murdered by stoning in front of the approving gaze of a man named Saul.
Until he is blinded by the light on his way to Damascus to become the Apostle Paul, the first of many hearts transformed and inspired to transform the world. But he is not content to spread the light at home, but to any and all who would listen. And these Christians are not content to keep quiet with their good news.
The Roman Emperor Nero, he finds a scapegoat for all of his failures.
James, Peter, and Paul.
Killed, crucified, and beheaded. Killing Christians becomes a sport of spectacle in the Colosseum. Christians are crucified, and they're hung and lit on fire to light up Nero's gardens.
But many Roman citizens are moved by the faith of the Christian martyrs, and they begin to meet them in the underground catacombs.
Another emperor claims that the sun god Apollo tells him to hunt down and burn every single Christian in the Mediterranean.
But within 10 years, Christianity becomes the primary religion of the Roman world, and the new emperor Constantine has a transformation of his own. The days of Roman persecution are over.
But with this free flow of religion and ideas comes confusion and uncertainty. What is truth?
The Universal Catholic Church is the answer, and the New Testament canon is formed in a spirit of unity.
But protection of this unity becomes a breeding ground for division. East versus west, church versus state.
A group of men seek a simpler walk with God, and Augustine's Confessions tell an honest story of a heart transformed.
But there is a grander vision of a transformed empire. And with crosses on their shields and the blessing of the Pope, the Crusaders move out to reclaim Europe for Christ in a bloodbath.
The leadership of the church began with a simple fisherman and his friends.
But how did this become an insatiable institution?
It was a question many would ask as they would enter their beloved places of worship.
And those who chose to speak up were interrogated and burned as heretics.
A small group of friars roamed the countryside, spreading their faith through logic and persuasion rather than the sword. Among them, another heart transformed, Francis of Assisi, who offers up a simple prayer: Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace.
Where there is hatred,
let me sow love.
Where there is injury,
pardon.
Where there is doubt,
faith.
Where there is despair,
hope.
Where there is darkness,
light.
But while the institution is bound in the darkness of a courtroom,
God's plan of light in the hearts of his children cannot be extinguished as one man's invention meets another man's translation, making the word of God accessible to the masses. The people can now read, interpret, and think for themselves.
And William Tyndale is labeled a heretic. He is strangled and burned at the stake.
Yet another heart is transformed as a common friar in Germany also translates the Bible and cannot keep quiet about the good news he discovers.
After witnessing the buying and selling of indulgences, salvation for those who can afford it,
Luther nails his theses to the door of the church and begins the Reformation.
Civil wars break out across Europe over what faith is the real faith, what truth is truth. Christians killing Christians in the name of God, neighbors killing neighbors in their own homes, all for the cause of this united faith.
But two countries take on a different mission from God, a quest to explore the globe and bring their faith to a new world. The light is spreading.
But with this new comfort comes the lure of superiority, and the temptation of wealth leads to the inconceivable.
Forgetting the legacy of freedom from the Exodus and triumph over Roman oppression.
The oppressed now become the oppressors. The former slaves now bear the whip.
True followers of Christ are horrified and seek new ways to shed a beacon of light. John Wesley finds a method in the madness, and then suddenly a field, a backyard, even a tavern becomes a place of worship. Thus begins the Great Awakening.
Suddenly, the followers of Jesus aren't content to stay at home in the light, actively seeking out the dark places around the globe.
Missionaries go out into unknown territories, and this time, not just with the men in the pulpit, but with a woman's touch in the classroom and by the beds of the sick and dying.
Back home, the African slaves listen and learn outside the tent revivals, and they hear the echoes of their own cries for freedom in the book of Exodus, yearning for the promised land.
A light shines in the darkness of night as they steal away to secret worship meetings, alerting each other in code and lilting melodies.
They encounter a new kind of darkness in the hearts of men that went way beyond any proclamation. Those who preached about equality and the love of God now became the messengers of hate and fear.
But there would be many who would combat this darkness with a message of love, as the inventions of radio and television quickly become tools for the gospel.
But religion is not the only message that spreads quickly across the airwaves, and people find themselves heading back to church for comfort.
Another great leader emerges with a dream of racial harmony, the words of Jesus to turn the other cheek as a mantra for nonviolent protest at all costs.
He leads his people into a promised land that he himself would never see.
In our century, we have seen the light in the healing hands of Mother Teresa.
And the darkness of religious scandal. We still live in a very dark world.
But 10 years ago, this church came upon an opportunity, a calling, a chance to make a bigger impact on the world around us.
At that time, the $22 million price tag seemed almost unbearable.
But God knew, and the people, you, answered the call by investing in this worship center.
Since that time, the light has been spreading throughout Holland and across the globe.
In the past 10 years, we have seen 81 of our own embark on a journey into the mission field.
You have planted over 72 new churches in 14 different countries, and 40% of the missionaries that you support spread that gospel message where it's not even legal.
You have given thousands of dollars and hundreds of man-hours every year to serve those hurting right here in Holland.
You have built bridges of redemption to people who find themselves going through divorce, unemployment, and single parenthood.
You have invested and invited countless souls to events like the Women's Christmas Dessert and Christmas and Easter productions and Alpha groups. In the past 10 years, God has answered many of your prayers with over 1,000 baptisms and 1,500 salvations.
A year ago, Central Wesleyan funded the translation of the Jesus film into the Wa language of Ghana. In this time, there have been over 2,600 conversions to Christ because of this film. There have been 8 churches and 39 Bible studies that have started.
Where darkness once was,
a light now shines. God has been busy here.
So here we are, 115 years old.
A church that is full of transformed hearts that are yearning to send out the light across Holland and around the world.
So the question remains, what will the future of the church look like?
What legacy do we carry on?
The world is waiting.